This week on 1% Weekly, Nick Rathall tells us how to put together an effective direct mail campaign. We find out which major country has just banned foreigners from buying property there, and I explain the workings of an investment company. Last week, Nick explained the importance of copywriting as a skill in business, whether you do it yourself or you outsource it. This week, I asked him how we can put together an effective direct mail campaign. So Nick, we established in our previous chat the importance of copywriting in business.
Yes.
But really, obviously, it only matters when it gets implemented as part of a direct mail campaign. So,
yes, that's right.
Can you just talk us through some of the key elements that you think are important in putting together a successful direct mail campaign?
Sure. Well, as Stephen Covey put it all those years ago, you really do have to start with the end in mind. What exactly is it that you're looking to achieve with your direct mail package? Now the obvious answer is make sales, but there are lots of ways to skin a cat, so to speak. Direct mail can take various forms. You've got postcards, the classic direct mail pack, also what are known as grabber mailings, where you can put things like money at the top of a letter, the classic Gary Halbert dollar bill letter. As you can see, I've put a dollar bill at the top of this letter. Why have I done this? As an attention grabber for the much put upon and busy reader who's sick to death of boring newsletters with people shaking hands in front of a building, for example. So start with the end in mind, and always remember that direct mail is an arithmetic and psychology business based on return on investment and not just sales made.
Okay, arithmetic and psychology.
That's
right.
Let's
talk about that a bit more. What's the arithmetic first, and then what's the psychology?
Well, the obvious ones, or seemingly obvious ones, are things like how much does it cost to get a direct mail letter into the post per unit, the stamp, the envelope, printing, investing in a copywriter who knows what they're doing and they don't write nor come cheap, and then working out based on your price how many units you need to sell to make things work. And on the psychology side, you've got to choose there are three different packages that you can actually send. First of which is what I call an evergreen product. The Bible might be a good example of that. One that sells consistently over time, not hugely, but never dips. The second of the three is what I call a quick hit product, where it's something that's really hot and it sells like hotcakes for a few months or maybe a year, a fad product. And then there's the third product, my favorite, what's known as continuity. That's newsletters or health products, where you pay a monthly or even a weekly fee regularly, until the customer tells you not to. And that's my preferred way. So quite a bit to think about before you even start printing anything or writing any copy.
I think one of the important things you touched on there was all the different forms that direct mail can take, because essentially it's pretty much anything you send in the post to somebody. And,
Yes.
and I know you've used postcards very effectively with the longer form of sales letter, but also as an ex-subscriber of yours, I know you've done a lot of regular newsletters to your own customer base. So what do you see as the particular benefits of something like a printed, posted newsletter?
Well, the first one is obvious. You're always in contact with your client. And secondly, yes, it is effectively a way of selling yourself to them, enhancing your brand equity or brand value, if you will. But also it's a non-confrontational way to keep in the front of their mind with a mixture of the two key elements of any newsletter. That's timely information and also timeless information. The great, say for copywriting, the things that endure forever, but also being aware of what's happening right now and what's working and can make the client money. So make it interesting. It can never be too long, but only too boring. Newsletter I had that you were a member of, it was 12 pages of densely packed copy, no pictures apart from a critique. So just make it interesting and something that they want to read and look forward to read, rather than the vast majority of boring dross that's out there.
But of course, as you say, make it interesting, but that also means making sure that the content itself is relevant to that particular audience.
Yes.
So in your case, you are sending it to people who are interested in getting better at copywriting.
Yes.
And therefore, you know, they wanted your kind of wisdom on that, your critique of their work. So it worked because of that. If you'd sent that to, you know, my great aunt in Cleethorpes, she probably wouldn't have been an avid reader of it. So it's back to matching the content with that very focused audience.
Very much so. I mean, one of the best direct mail pieces I've ever seen, and I've seen hundreds of thousands, if not millions, was for a Lusitano Cuban cigars. It was in the States. Absolutely brilliant from a research point of view, but I'm a lifelong non-smoker, and unlike the 42nd president, I've never even not inhaled. So for me as a customer, it's no good, even though the copy's brilliant. So that is very important. Make sure you match the market to the message.
Right. And also I think some people might balk at the cost of direct mail, because obviously, you know, everyone thinks, oh, well, email's free and direct mail costs money. You touched on the point about ROI there.
Yes.
If there's anyone watching us that's thinking, oh, you know, I'm a bit nervous about the expenditure involved, what would you say to them?
Well, just before we get to the cost, there is what I call the holy trinity of direct mail, which, you know, you have, if you focus on this, then the costs will evaporate and you'll get a good return on investment. The first of which is the list, which is absolutely vital. Don't cut corners and don't be cheap on this. Invest in better lists and you'll get better results. Then, of course, there's the offer, which we talked about with your aunt in Cleethorpes and not liking direct mail perhaps, but something else. And then, of course, we've touched on this already, the copy side of things, making sure the message matches the market of, you know, the offer's right for the list that you're mailing to. And that way, yes, okay, on the face of it, it costs more, but then you get more loyal customers, and marketing via email is getting harder and harder and harder, not least due to the new GDPR regulations that have come into place.
No, indeed. And I think, to me, one of the benefits, the biggest benefits of direct mail is that relatively few people are doing it, so you get the chance to turn up like nobody else.
Oh, very much so. I mean, I've been, some people are gold bugs or tech bugs. I've been a direct mail bug forever. The serious players have always done direct mail. They just don't brag about it. And of course, there's the privacy side as well. Yes, you may be mailing to 10,000, 100,000, although to start off with, I would recommend lower numbers based on what you're offering, anything from 1,000 to 5,000, which limits the downside if it doesn't work. But again, no, that way you're not blazoned across a national newspaper, on the internet where social media picks it up, which may be a good or a bad thing. It's very much a double-edged sword. But with direct mail, it's to people, you've done your research and you know more or less they're going to respond to the offer somehow.
I think perhaps the final point we should look at is the variety of things that can be promoted through direct mail. You know, it's not just the very obvious things. I'd imagine you've worked on all kinds of different products and services.
Oh, very much so. I mean, you name it, I've probably done it. But predominantly sort of in the health and the wealth creation side of things, business opportunities, sports betting, which a lot of people are sniffy about, but is an enormous market, particularly in volatile economic times. And also a quick point just to finalise, you make an offer, which is very important, but something Ted Nicholas taught me is that when you fulfil the order and make sure your staff know how to, and that's another point you can take away, that they know exactly what it is you're offering and how to respond on the phone. Also offer a surprise gift, which you haven't told them about in the letter. So for example, something like this, a surprise gift for Graham, suitable for the National Nutrition Clinic. Graham was expecting me to come today, obviously, to talk about direct response marketing and direct mail. But if you send something like this in the post, maybe your aunt in Cleethorpes isn't a clotted cream fudge fan, but far more likely to be than perhaps a copywriting protege. So something like that. Just include a little bonus gift as a thank you for the order, and it really helps with subsequent orders, particularly if you've got a continuity product.
Okay, well, I will now go off and enjoy my clotted cream fudge from North Devon. Nick Rowell, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Graham.
It's really hard to cover something as important as direct mail in a few minutes, but I hope we've at least whetted your appetite to learn more. And do get in touch if you'd like Nick to take a look at your direct mail campaign. I've been talking a lot recently about what I call meta-diversification, this idea of living in more than one place, maybe having businesses in more than one country, bank accounts in more than one country, residency in multiple countries. One of the reasons for doing this is to act now while you can so that you have some choices for the future. And I was really reminded of the urgency of this when it was announced that New Zealand is banning foreigners from buying property there. Yes, you heard it right. A major country, a Commonwealth country if you will, New Zealand, has decided under its Labour government that because of the rise in prices they've had in houses and the shortage in some areas and homelessness in some areas, the answer to that is to stop these rich foreigners coming in and buying a place in New Zealand. I mean, there is a word for this, but I can't use it on a family show like 1% Weekly. But this just shows where ill-considered, politically motivated policies can start to reduce the choices open to us. Now, New Zealand has actually become a very popular bolt hole with American hedge fund managers who want to have a place there just in case Donald Trump starts blowing up the planet Earth. It's a lovely country, very scenic. There are some hot spots there like the Auckland property market, but what they seem to be forgetting is that usually when foreigners do buy, it's new developments. This law apparently is a law against buying existing homes. They'll still be allowed to own potentially apartments or up to 60% of apartments in a brand new block. But if you saw something in the center of town that you fancied, you would be banned from buying it because you're a foreigner. And this is the sort of measure that really gets my goat, that it's really a tokenism. It's being seen to do something, however stupid it might be, because only 3% of all property transactions in New Zealand involve foreigners anyway. And house prices have started to stabilize. I think they went down in fact 1.2% in July. They're up about 6% in the last 12 months. So it doesn't feel like a raging bubble that we had a decade ago. But equally, it has been rising over a period of time, so the property market was probably due a correction. But to jump in and have the government say, the problem is Johnny Foreigner coming in here buying up our houses so that we have people living on the street homeless because of it, that is such total BS. There is no way those people would be competing for the same properties anyway. And the fact that they can't house their own homeless people is hardly our problem. But what a great way to blame it on someone else, deflect it away from the government, and then be seen to take action against this big bad bogeyman, the foreign buyer. A lot of people in the country and even the IMF themselves have said this is a dumb policy. This is going to affect foreign direct investment in New Zealand, and it's the sort of thing that will come back and bite this Labour government on the bum big time. But okay, let's learn the lesson from this. Some countries are going to start taking measures like this in the years ahead. One example is this New Zealand banning foreign property owners. Another example somewhere else might be capital controls on how much you can take in or out of a country. Another might be residency restrictions on whether you are allowed to stay and for how long. So the point is that before these measures come in, you should get yourself some options and make sure that you've got choices where you live, where you have a business, where you have bank accounts, where you have residency, where you have your investment portfolio. This is the time to be meta-diversifying. If you sit on the fence for too long, what you will see is these choices gradually being eroded. As governments get more and more broke, more desperate for cash, they'll start inventing not just new taxes, but new restrictions on where you can and can't go. on where your money can be transferred to and from and how much. It's already a crime to try and move around any sort of amount of cash into your bank account or out of your bank account. You get treated like a terrorist as soon as you try that. But this is the kind of thing that to me is symptomatic of some bigger controls that are coming. So keep an eye out on this kind of thing and have a plan for where you want to go, where you want to build your multi-country portfolio, and start thinking about it now before it's too late. One of the biggest areas in which we've been able to help business owners is to set up a separate investment company alongside their trading company, because there are all sorts of benefits. Let me show you what I mean. If you run a trading company, but you also want to make some investments, there's a smarter way to do it than what we find in many business owners, because quite often we find that if you've got money sitting around on the balance sheet, it's tempting just to think, well, what could I invest that in? What could I do with that spare cash? Well, the problem is, if you invest it through your trading company and it starts to become a more and more significant part of that company's assets, it can lead to a change in the tax treatment of that trading business, and it can start to be regarded by the tax authorities as an investment company. So the smart thing is to actually set up a separate investment company. So if you've got your trading company here, and the prerequisite obviously for this is that you've got some surplus profit sitting in there, so you've got cash on the balance sheet in the trading business, the smart thing to do is to set up a separate investment company, and to do it in a very special way, which means that you can use it both to move profits from here, but also potentially to make it an inheritance vehicle for the next generation. So what we do is we don't just set up a standard company, we set it up in such a way that you may have multiple shareholders who could be your children or whoever you want the beneficiaries of these investments to be. And we also have a small shareholding from the trading business, which means that what we can do is take the surplus money that's in the trading company, send it across as a dividend to the investment company, and the dividends between companies are not taxable. So if you've got, let's say for the sake of argument, 100K of spare cash in the trading business, you can move that across as a dividend into the investment company, which now has 100K, with which it can start making investments and have the returns paid into that company. Now, the smart thing about this share structure is that you can also effectively put this outside of your estate and into the hands of the next generation, so that they can ultimately be the beneficiaries of these assets at a point in time that you choose. So the beauty of this is, A, it means you've got a vehicle separate to your trading business. That means you can put the cash in here. It's always not a good idea to keep lots and lots of spare cash in a trading company. It can be the subject of litigation or whatever. So get it out of there into the investment company. Use that to make a wide range of investments, because unlike a pension, there are no restrictions on how much you can keep in your investment company. There's no £1 million lifetime limit. There's no tax relief on the way in either, but you've certainly got no limits there. There's no annual limits, so this is a very flexible arrangement. And because of the way you set up the share structure, you can actually use it as an inheritance vehicle for the next generation. And there are one or two other little tweaks you can put in here just to protect yourself, so that you don't give away complete control of all these assets. So certainly something to think about if you're owning and running a profitable operational business in the UK. this is a structure that we can put in place for you. It will give you a lot of benefits now because of the way you can move the money around tax-free and then invest the proceeds, but also long-term by getting it out of your estate and drastically reducing the inheritance tax liabilities of the next generation. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching 1% Weekly. If you like what you see, why not subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell so you get notified every time we broadcast a new program. Or if you just want to watch another video, how about this one? Are you going to make a choice then? Because I can't sort of stay here all day. I'm getting my hands are getting tired. So, in your own time,